In this episode of the Range Minded Podcast, I just do a quick episode to tell you guys happy 4th of July. Make sure you're safe. Don't do dumb things. And just to tell you my thoughts about the holiday. Anyways, hope you enjoy. What's up, gang? Welcome back to the Range Minded Podcast. I'm going to be straight up honest with you. By the way, my name's Steve, one of the hosts of the Range Minded Podcast. Again, I'm doing another lone episode. If you saw our live the other night, we did a live on Instagram. Nick will be back. I promise. He'll be back. So you just have to tolerate me for a little bit longer. Now, okay, let's go back. I'm going to be honest with you. I had actually recorded 2 previous segments to this week's episode. As I'm recording, it is the 1st, July 1st, and you will hear Toby, our dog, freaking out beyond all belief. He, the neighbors are shooting off fireworks, and yeah, so there he is. And Toby does not like them. They are his nemesis next to the vacuum cleaner. Anyway, like I said, I recorded actually two other episodes that I was going to upload, maybe make one out of them. I didn't want to do a long, crazy episode where it is the 4th of July weekend. Publish those, throw those in somewhere. But they just seemed kind of boring. They seemed kind of down and not as exciting. So I decided I wanted to be uplifting. I wanted to have fun. The 4th of July is, and maybe it should be second to Christmas, but it really is one of my most favorite holidays. I think about our founding fathers and how much they were willing to sacrifice so that we could be free. It's an amazing holiday to me, and I get filled with gratitude when I go to some of these small town parades, and I see these veterans from Vietnam and Korea and obviously more recent ones as well. I don't know. I'm weird, I guess, that way. So why do I like the 4th of July so much other than that? Why is it such an awesome holiday to me? Other than that, I don't really know why I find it such a great holiday. I guess I'm just a patriotic guy. If I could get away with decorating my house like crazy for the 4th of July, I would. Sorry. That's terrible audio, I know. But my wife doesn't decorate for anything. Christmas, Thanksgiving, doesn't matter. She doesn't like to decorate. And I honestly do not blame her, because then I'd have to clean it up and put stuff away. So I'm kind of okay with that. If you guys have ever really sat down and read the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, and I hope you do. I hope you take some of this time off you have away from work and spend a few minutes. Honestly, those documents are not that long. You can sit down and read them in a few minutes, and you get poor Toby, and you can get to know them a little bit better. And it does give us some insight, I think, on how they felt. You know, the Declaration of Independence is one of my absolute favorites. When they talk about telling us citizens in the future, they knew that could come down to the future where there was going to be a problem with leadership, and I guess you could say tyranny. I hate throwing that term around because I think it gets abused too much. That it becomes our duty to replace that government with something better than it was. And honestly, I don't think there could be a better document written as far as the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence and our Bill of Rights. I really think those documents are pure in its origin. There was a lot of time by a lot of very educated and thoughtful men, which I do believe had some help from above to get where they needed to get. Toby, come here. He's like freaking out. Maybe you can hear him. Dude, chill. Go lay down. He's not gonna get any sleep tonight. There he goes again. And then he runs up. So I'm downstairs in my basement recording. He'll run up and down the stairs. Like, I swear he thinks somebody's knocking at the door or something. Anyway, it's interesting to see. I think there's 27 reasons that they give the king why they want their independence and why they need their independence. And each one of those bullet points are intriguing to me to contrast from then to now. Of course, I don't know what it was like back then. Well, we can only read and guesstimate what it was like having British soldiers quartered in our houses and magistrates of the king running the towns. It's got to be very frustrating. But what's the difference now? Like, honestly, is there any difference now? Is it worse now than it was then? I don't know. But one of my favorite lines is towards the end of the declaration. Actually, it's really the last sentence. And for those who support this declaration with firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. And what are we doing now? We knew what these men were willing to give up then. But what are we willing to give up now? It really does feel like that, at least in the lowercase Republican, lowercase r community, I don't know how to communicate. It seems like a lot of the Republicans, the lazy Republicans, have just kind of been passive. And honestly, I've been guilty of it too, right? We think, oh, that will never happen here. They have an NRA rating that's 100%. They're not going to sell us down the river for anything. But that's not true. When we become passive, our leadership, in air quotes, will do whatever they want, right? Men or mankind, by nature, we're weak. Do I use the word carnal? Is that right? Like, we want to please. The desires of our hearts are always going to learn or lean towards kind of worldly things, and so they have to be governed in some way. We have to learn to keep our thoughts and actions under control. Otherwise, we kind of just turn into these wild beasts by nature. And like I say, in the Declaration has so much cool insight that what they knew, the founders knew and understood, could happen and very well would happen, and maybe it is happening now. And my question is, what is our breaking point? We know what their breaking point was. What is our breaking point? And I'm not calling for a war or anything like that. I mean, heaven forbid. We see what they're doing with the January 6th things, and I think that goes a lot deeper than. I think there's some funny business with January 6th. Let's just put it that way. But I think the majority of people there at the Capitol were just normal people that supported the president. And Trump's not my favorite guy. I mean, I never hide that. He's not the most amazing president we've ever had. Honestly, we've lost a lot of two-way freedom under his watch. But I think it's just because he was just ignorant to what the community really is. I think he had a lot of yes men around him that were feeding him full of crap, and he's from New York City where they see a lot of gun crime, and there's never really been a huge amount of support for the Second Amendment in the big city there. And so I think it was by negative exposure that he wanted to make some of those actions. But that's neither here nor there anymore. And a lot of those things could now go away because of the recent ruling from the Supreme Court. I was going to read another section out of this, another sentence. I should have highlighted it, but I didn't. Okay, I think it's this one. But when a long train of abuse and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. The Founding Fathers knew and understood that men are flawed. Mankind is flawed and is going to make mistakes and is going to fall into a point where there will be abuse of power. And I think we really do see that. And I think we see it on local levels, some of our local and state representation. And I think every state has that plague, no matter how good the intent is in the beginning of some of these elected officials. A lot of them lose their way when they see what kind of influence they can have and what circles they start to run in. Excuse me. Man, I'm tired for some reason. But at some point, where do we make that change? Where do we make that correction? By nature, a lot of us don't complain. A lot of the flyover states, basically anything inside of the edges of the country, there's a lot of hardworking individuals that just need to get stuff done. They need to either plant their fields or they need to go to work as a contractor or whatever it is. They have got so much already on their plate, and now even much more on the side of worries to deal with whether it be fuel for the farmers or the contractors. I mean, I drive a lot. I drive a lot for work as a contractor by trade. When you get job sites spread apart, 20, 30 miles, that's a lot of fuel. That's a lot of fuel to use up, and it hurts. It's painful, and it cuts into the bottom line to where there's not a lot of profit left. What point are people going to say enough is enough? One thing I can say about President Trump is the country did pretty good as far as self-efficiency. We were producing our own oil, at least a huge majority of it. I know we did get some foreign oil, but we were very much on the side of independence as far as energy came from. We had a lot of new businesses coming back into the United States, so the job market was looking good. Things were looking definitely better. Inflation was low, which it doesn't matter who's president. That stuff's going to fluctuate. Those bubbles are going to pop. Things are going to happen. That doesn't really matter as much. There probably is some abuse on the capitalist side, but that's crony capitalism. That's not pure capitalism. That's the bigwigs getting bigger and only scratching themselves. Well, that didn't sound good. Only filling their own pockets and helping their buddies out too, instead of being a true capitalist society. And there is some abuse there, and I can honestly say that. So what do we do now? Where do we go from now? I don't really want this to be a negative show, but here's what we do. We have our barbecues. We hang out with our friends. We go to those small town parades, small town fireworks shows. We go buy fireworks from the people that are our neighbors that have fireworks stands. And we enjoy the holiday. We're Americans, damn it. We need to start living like it. And if our representation isn't doing what we ask them to do, we fire them. We vote them out, and we get new people that listen. We're the bosses. We're the ones in control. We, the people, are the leadership. And the people that we hired to do the job for us, if they're not doing that job, we fire them. In the meantime, we fly our flags, we say our prayers, and we continue to work hard, not turning a blind eye to the problems. That's not what I'm suggesting. I think we still need to be engaged and involved, but we hold people's feet to the fire and expect them to do the job that we hired them to do. And that goes all the way down to the school board level, the dog catcher. I mean, honestly, any elected official, the people that we hire to represent us, we're in charge, not them. And I think the government, and I mean the whole body politic, whether it be Republicans or Democrats and everything in between, I think they've all done a really good job at marketing themselves as the ones in charge. They've done a really good job at saying, don't worry, we'll take care of it, while they give themselves pay raises, while they give themselves forever insurance, while they somehow invest in things that aren't even available to invest in, yet when they do, they become filthy rich, or they get some kind of a buddy deal on real estate, or whatever it may be. They seem to always be comfortable in their situation. People have a hard time, or they feel uncomfortable when they say the Second Amendment exists to keep the government in check. And I truly believe that is right. Because when their society has a way to defend itself, the government has more limitations. And if you understand what the Constitution was written for, it was written as a way to limit the government's power, not for the government to distribute the rights to the people. The people already have the power. And that's the way it was designed. You see, we're a representative government, a republic. We're not a democracy, as some of the idiot talking heads will continue to bring up on every newscast when anything comes up politically. We're not a democracy. It is not mob rule. We're a representative republic, a democratic republic, I guess you could. That's what it really is. Based on a federalist system, meaning the states have the ultimate control over the federal. Now, the federal can create guidelines, which I understand, I get, but many states have the right to govern as states. And within those states are the elected representatives who stand for the people. That's why I'm saying get out and enjoy the 4th of July. We have to still be Americans. We have to stand up for what we believe in. We have to do the hard things sometimes, because that's what we've always been. From the 1770s, well, honestly, even before, to now. I truly believe this land was set aside for a specific reason. I believe in God. I believe that God has his hand in everything. And I don't believe God is a malicious God. I think he's a loving God. I do also believe that he allows people to do things out of their own agency. And if those things hurt other people, they'll be held responsible. Some things are out of our control, I understand. But there are many more that are in our control. Friends, I appreciate your time. Listen to me rant for a few minutes. I really didn't want to make this any kind of a negative episode. I wanted it to be positive. And I want you guys to be grateful for the country that you live in. I want you guys to see how lucky you really are that you live in the greatest country on earth. We have had many mistakes. We have many shortcomings. We don't always elect the greatest people to represent us. But we still are the greatest country on earth, with the greatest potential, with the greatest ability to do good. We just have to be able to re-tap into those resources, and it begins with each of us being good neighbors, being responsible citizens. I truly believe that. Friends, you're awesome. If you have time, take somebody shooting. Enjoy the rights that you have, because there are so many other countries, so many other people in the world that do not have the freedoms that we have. We are a blessed country, and I swear that has to be the case. I believe that with all my heart. Have an awesome 4th of July. Make the most of it. Build friendships. Guys, I really appreciate you listening to the Range Minded Podcast. Your time is valuable to us too. We know everybody's busy, and we really appreciate your time. If you like what you heard tonight, go ahead and like and share it with your friends. If you have any comments or concerns, send them this way. It's all right. We can handle it. We're big kids. There's something wrong with our email, so I'm going to have you send it to my personal email. It's impracticaltactical, the number 17 at gmail.com. And if you have any suggestions for any guests or specific topics or stuff we can dig into, go ahead, bring it on. We'd love to hear from you guys. Again, thanks for listening to the Range Minded Podcast.